The IT crowd is one of the most accurate depictions of technical support ever put on television. Moss, Roy, the basement, the complete and total inability of anyone in the building to understand what IT actually does or why it matters. The calls that open with, "Have you tried turning it off and on again?" Not as a joke, as a genuine diagnostics protocol. If you work in IT services, you didn't watch that show as a comedy, you watched it as a documentary. And if you own an MSP, here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. The show got your best technician exactly right. Not as a joke, as a warning. And most of you have been laughing too hard to notice. Every MSP has a Moss. You know exactly who I'm talking about. You don't even need me to describe them because their face just appears in your head. They know everything, genuinely. Not pretty good technician everything. Everything. Clients ask for them by name. Tickets get quietly rerouted their way because it's just faster. New techs follow them around like baby ducks because wherever Moss does, it works, and nobody fully understands how or why. They don't document. Why would they? The documentation is in their head, and their head is right there. They don't always follow the process. They have a better process. Their process, which lives in a system that runs entirely on one human being's continued employment at your company. Here's the cause and effect your P&L doesn't show you. When you allow one person to operate outside the process because their results are exceptional, the process becomes optional. When the process is optional for one person, it becomes negotiable for everyone. When the process is negotiable, you don't have a process. You have a suggestion. And you can't build a business, a real, scalable, sellable, survives your vacation business, on suggestions. Moss isn't your best asset. Moss is the single point of failure in a novelty t-shirt. And you've been calling it a feature. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. They're simple. The answers are going to be uncomfortable. That's how you know they're the right questions. Question 1. What happens when Moss gets sick? Not on vacation with a 2-week handoff and a color-coded out of office. Sick. Thursday morning. No warning. Phone call at 7:45. Not coming in. Does your service desk run at the same level? Do tickets get resolved at the same speed? Do your clients get the same experience they got Wednesday? Or does everyone look at each other the way Renholm Industries staff looked at Moss and Roy every single time the internet went down? Like the power went out and nobody knows where the flashlights are. If your answer is, we manage, that's not a process. That's an improvisation with a prayer attached. A business that manages when a key person is out is a business that's one resignation letter away from a very bad year. Question 2. Where does Moss's knowledge live? Write it down right now. Seriously. Close your eyes for a second and actually answer this. Where does the knowledge live? If the answer involves the words mostly in their head, some notes only they can read, a team channel no one else checks, or my personal favorite, I think they've got something in a spreadsheet somewhere. Congratulations. You built a knowledge base that requires Moss to operate. That's not tribal knowledge. That's a hostage situation. The IT Service Run Guide, or as I refer to it, the ITSRG, exists for exactly this reason. It's not a bureaucratic exercise. It's the thing that captures what lives in brilliant people's heads and makes it executable by the rest of your team. You can't scale a person. You can scale a documented process. The day you stop treating those 2 things as interchangeable is the day your business starts growing past whatever ceiling Moss represents right now. And by the way, the day Moss leaves, because someday Moss leaves, could be a better offer, could be burnout, could be they start their own thing. When that happens, they're going to take your operational capability right out the door. Not because they're trying to hurt you, because you never built a system that would have captured it. Question 3. Are your other techs growing or are they waiting? This is the one nobody wants to answer because the answer requires you to look at something you might have helped create. When Moss is in the building, do your other technicians grow? Do they push themselves, try new approaches, develop diagnostic instincts? Or do they quietly stop trying because they know Moss will handle it? Moss is faster and the clients prefer Moss anyway. Dependency is a culture killer that moves in silence. It doesn't announce itself at all hands meetings. It just slowly turns your Tier 2 techs into Tier 1 techs who've stopped asking questions. Your Tier 1 techs into order takers who stopped thinking. And your entire service delivery model into a one-man show with a supporting cast that's getting worse, not better, every single month. Roy from the IT crowd had all the capability in the world. He just stopped using most of it because the path of least resistance was right there. Sound familiar? Here's the thing I need you to hear, and I need you to hear it without getting defensive. Moss didn't create this problem, you did. The day you routed that first ticket to Moss because they were faster, you made a decision. The day you let them skip documentation because documentation would have slowed them down, you made a decision. The day you didn't build the process that would have captured their knowledge, extracting their methods, and made it executable by someone who isn't Moss, You made a decision. Every one of those decisions felt completely reasonable in the moment. Every single one was quietly building the bottleneck you're now standing in front of, wondering how it got there. The IT crowd is funny because Moss and Roy and Jen are trapped in the basement, trapped in a system nobody ever bothered to build properly, trapped by an organization that didn't value what they did until the internet went down. Your MSP doesn't have to work that way, but it will keep working that way as long as your default answer to a hard problem is give it to Moss. The Business Maturity Index has a name for where most of these shops are sitting. Level 2, reactive. Processes exist but aren't followed reliably. Leaders step in constantly to resolve issues. Performance improves in bursts but won't hold. Heroics are a bridge, not a foundation. Most MSPs hit their ceiling not because they lack talent, because they built the business around the talent instead of building the system that makes the talent transferable. 3 moves. No MBA speak, no 6-month consulting engagement. 3 things you can start this week. Move 1. Extract the knowledge while Moss is still there. Shadow them, record their calls with permission, sit next to them on hard tickets, and ask them to narrate what they're doing and why. Build the run book while they're still in the building. The IT Service Run Guide isn't a project for someday, it's the structural backbone of a service operation that can function when any one person isn't in the room. Start with the top 10 ticket types Moss handles that nobody else can. Document those first. You'll be amazed how much institutional knowledge was one resignation away from walking out the door forever. Move 2. Build the accountability structure and include Moss in it. Everyone is accountable to the process, not for it, to it. That includes your best technician, especially your best technician. Because if they're visibly operating outside the standard, you've already told the rest of your team that the standard is optional for people who are good enough. Are the people failing the process, or is the process failing the people? Both are fixable, but neither one is fixable if Moss is exempt from the conversation. When the process is wrong, you change it through the right conversation with the whole team, documented and deployed. Not by having one person quietly do it their way while everyone else watches and wonders why the rules apply to them, but not to the genius in the corner. Move 3. Let Moss be brilliant inside the structure. The goal isn't to slow Moss down. The goal isn't to sand off the edges of what make them exceptional. The goal is to give the rest of your team a fighting chance to catch up and to give Moss a place to operate that doesn't require them to be present for everything to work. Brilliant people inside a good process don't get slower. They get amplified because now their knowledge is teachable. Their methods are repeatable. Their absence doesn't shut the service desk down. And honestly, most Mosses, the real ones, not the ones who are just territorial, they don't actually want to be the bottleneck. They want to solve the hardest problems. Build a structure and give them the hardest problems. That's the trade. Every great MSP I've ever worked with had a Moss. Many of them still do. The difference between the ones that grew and the ones that stayed stuck isn't whether they had a brilliant person who could solve anything. It's whether they built the thing that could run when that person wasn't there. Moss deserves better than being the ceiling for your business. And frankly, so do you. The IT Service Run Guide is the starting point. Links in the description. Go build the thing.